Hello and welcome. I recently returned from a trip to California. Nope, it wasn't a work trip. Nope, it wasn't a family vacation. This was an unadulterated skatecation. What? I know, I'm just as surprised as you are. I mean, I take a lot of skate road trips, but I have never flown before specifically for the purpose of skateboarding. I had the chance to join a bunch of guys on a trip to a classic full pipe. I was able to get some time off of work, and more importantly, I was able to clear it with my wife. So I found myself booking a trip to Northern California. The trip itself was awesome, and I learned a thing or two about skate travel along the way. Now, skate travel doesn't have to be exclusively about skateboarding. I mean, maybe you've got a family trip coming up and you're thinking about bringing a board and hitting some skate parks while you're out there. Skateboarding is a great travel activity because there are skate parks everywhere. They're pretty much all free and they're all different, so it's a unique experience no matter where you go. So let's talk a little bit about skate traveling. I've got some tips for you. Check it out. The first question that everybody asks when they find out that somebody has flown with their skateboard is, how did you do it? What was the experience like? Did you have to check your board, or could you bring it on the plane? Were there any additional fees? Things like that. The easy answer is, it depends on your airline. Every airline is a little bit different in terms of their skateboard policies. You really want to go to their website and see what their skateboard policies are. I flew Southwest Airlines, and I did it specifically because of their skateboard policy. I flew in September of 2025, and the policy at that time, and I think it's still current, is that you can fly with a skateboard and it counts as your carry-on. So when you fly, you can bring three types of things with you: a checked bag, a carry-on, and a personal item. A checked bag is something like your suitcase. A carry-on is a smaller suitcase that you bring with you onto the plane and you store it in the overhead compartment during the flight. And a personal item is something small like a bag or a backpack, and you keep that with you during the flight. So I had a suitcase, that was my checked bag. I had my backpack, that was my personal item. And my carry-on was my skateboard. So I brought it with me onto the plane. When I got to my seat, I stored it in the overhead bin, wheels up so that it wouldn't roll around, and it was pretty effortless. I didn't know how they were going to be with the enforcement of this policy, so I threw a skate tool and a small screwdriver into my backpack just in case. My plan was that if they told me that I couldn't fly with my board, I would quickly disassemble it, I'd hang onto the wheels and the trucks and the hardware, and then I'd sacrifice my deck. Thankfully, I didn't have to do that. It was pretty easy. This is not a paid endorsement or anything like that, but if I had to fly again for a skate trip, I would definitely fly Southwest. All right, let's talk a little bit about setups. I personally like to have options. So if I go on a skate road trip somewhere, I like to bring 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 different setups just so that I have options depending on the terrain. But when you're flying, you can only bring one board, so what do you bring? My strategy was this: bring the board that you're most comfortable with. So I brought this. This is the board that I ride the most often. I knew that it would be a great fit for any park that I would go to, but I was also planning on going to a few ditches, a pool, and a full pipe, all of which have variable terrain. Like I said, I like options. So my next piece of advice would be bring extra wheels or extra trucks if needed. I brought my Spitfires, which are my go-to regular park wheels, But then I brought a set of nano cubics because they're a little bit softer and a little bit grippier just in case I needed them. And then I threw in a set of dirt clods. They are bigger and they're softer and they can handle even the crustiest terrain. I knew that those wheels would cover the bases for pretty much anything that I would skate. As for the full pipe, I knew that I would need a specialized setup for that. Most people at that pipe ride great big wheels. So I put together a completely different setup using the same deck. Different wheels, different trucks, different risers, even different bushings. My plan was that on the day of the full pipe, I could just swap out the whole truck assembly and I'd be ready to go. A couple extra setup tips for you. If you bring extra wheels, I found it to be really helpful to install the bearings ahead of time. That way, if I had to swap the wheels out, it was a nice, quick, and easy swap. If you bring extra trucks, I found it to be really helpful to label them front and rear. That way, when you mount them back on the board, everything feels natural. You don't have to do a lot of extra adjusting. For both wheels and trucks, I found it to be helpful to put them into a Ziploc bag before you throw it into your luggage. This way, you don't get your clothes all grimy and waxy. Speaking of packing, what do you pack on a skate trip? Here was my list. Feel free to take a screenshot in case you need it for later. There's a couple things that I packed that I'm so glad that I did. One is a drying line, another is a small portable fan. I'm a pad guy, so I wear pads and a helmet every single time that I skate. Naturally, when you skate, you get sweaty. So I've gotten into the habit of rinsing out my pads with fresh water after every session. It just keeps things fresh. And usually I'll hang up my pads somewhere outside and let them air dry. But when you're on a trip, you might not be able to do that. What I did was to hang up my drying line somewhere for my pads to drip dry, like a bathroom. But if you're in a hotel room, a drying line is not enough. That's where the fan comes in handy. I set it up to blow air at the pads. I let it run all night. By the next day, I had nice dry pads. The other thing that I was really glad that I brought was an extra set of skate shoes. Now, I packed my normal skate shoes in my suitcase, but you have to wear shoes to the airport anyway, so I just wore a second set of skate shoes. I figured it would come in handy in case something happened to them. And actually, it did come in handy because I spilled a bucket of pool water on my skate shoes. So I was pretty glad to have that extra set. Okay, health and safety. This is really nobody's favorite topic, so I think it's worth talking about, but I'll try and keep it as quick as possible. Skateboarding is a really physical activity. It requires a lot of energy, concentration, balance. Your body requires three main things: food, water, and rest. So you want to eat right, you want to make sure that you're well hydrated, and you want to get plenty of rest. It makes sense. Obviously, you want your body to operate at 100% so that you can make the most of your skate trip. The hardest one for me was eating right. It's not because I was eating junk food. It's just when you're on a trip, there's a lot of things that you want to do, and before you know it, you've skipped a meal or something like that. Any number of bad things can happen with that. If I skip a meal and skate, I tend to get migraines. So I really didn't want that to happen. My solution to that was Go to the grocery store and get yourself some supplies that you can bring with you on the go. Make yourself a list of whatever you think you're going to need to stay fed and hydrated. Your list might be a little bit different from mine. My survival list was this: water, Gatorade, granola bars, peanut butter and bread, bananas, and coffee. I know that seems like a completely random list, but actually, everything was selected for a purpose. Things to stay hydrated, to restore electrolytes, non-perishable food that I could bring with me to the skate park, and even things that might help me prevent migraines. Here's a tip though: your hotel's continental breakfast might serve some of those things, so you might be able to save yourself some money by grabbing some bananas from there instead of buying them from the store. Tip: let someone know where you're going to be. It's just a good idea, and that goes double if you're skating somewhere off the grid. Now, nobody wants to roll up to a pool and find your skeleton at the bottom of it. It's just a good idea. Some things that I didn't do that I should have. Number one is stretching. I don't normally stretch when I skate, and it's fine, so I didn't stretch during this trip either, but I was skating a lot more than I normally do. So by the next morning, I was so sore that I could barely walk. Lesson learned: next time I will be better about stretching. The second thing that I wish that I had done that I didn't do would be to find hospitals in advance, just in case anything happens. I know you're thinking you could probably just look it up on your phone, but I was skating some spots that were off-grid. I didn't have cell service, which means you also don't have GPS. It just would have been a good idea in case anything happened to know where to go in an emergency. All right, a few more tips to help you make the most of your skate trip. Number one is be flexible. You never know what might happen. It might rain, you might be too tired to skate. Both of those things happened to me, but thankfully I had some other ideas of things that I wanted to do while I was there. So I was able to make some alternate plans and make the most of it. Tip number two is go to the skate park early. That one's kind of like Skate Park 101 for anybody who skates. It's going to be less crowded, less scooter kids. It's a good time to go if you want to just enjoy the park. Here's a tip for you. If you're traveling through time zones and you're gaining time, you are at a tremendous advantage because you can get up earlier and get to the skate park before everybody else. Traveling from New Jersey to California, there's a 3-hour time difference. So I did my best to stay on New Jersey time. I would wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, California time, which is 8 o'clock in the morning here in New Jersey. I'd spend that first hour getting my gear ready for the day. By 6 o'clock, I'd go down to the continental breakfast, I'd have a good meal and relax for a bit. By 7 o'clock, the sun was coming up, I'd be out the door and at the skate park. I would also go to bed at 8 p.m. California time, which seems absurdly early for me, but that's 11 o'clock at night in New Jersey. So by keeping that same schedule, I could keep the momentum going, getting up early and getting to the skate parks early. Here's another tip, and I know that it contradicts my previous tip. I know a lot of older guys don't like to go to the skate park once it's crowded, but don't be afraid to go when there's people there. You never know who you might meet. My final tip is, don't be afraid to tell people that you're traveling from out of town. Now, don't forget, you have to be street smart when you travel. You don't want to disclose too much information that makes you a target as a traveler. But when people found out that I had traveled from New Jersey all the way across the country just to go to their home park, people were really stoked about that. People gave me tips on skate parks that I should check out. One guy gave me an invite to a fundraiser contest at a backyard pool. Another guy invited me to a private backyard skate park. Obviously, you want to be safe out there, but how awesome is that? Generally speaking, the skateboarding community is awesome. Most people are really friendly. Skateboarding can give you so much if you let it. Alright, that is just about it for my skate travel tips. I hope they come in handy for you. If you end up going on a trip, even if you just bring a board on a family trip, I'd love to hear about it. Do you have some skate travel tips of your own? If you do, leave them in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. My name is Rob, signing off. Thanks for watching.